A new report on foreign worker dormitories in Singapore says bed rental rates are expected to rise by 5% to 8% this year. The rates will continue to go up at a more moderate pace after a sharp spike last year amid post-pandemic economic recovery. The report by the Dormitory Association of Singapore Limited and real estate consultancy Knight Frank said dorm occupancy reached near full levels in the second half of 2024. Demand is expected to remain strong as industries from construction, marine, shipyard and process segments prepare to hire more foreign workers. On the other hand, bed supply is predicted to fall amid refurbishment of existing dorms to meet higher regulatory standards. To ease the shortage, the association suggests using better technology to speed up dorm construction.
Policymakers, can help with fast tracking, some of these projects, in terms of approvals, right, and granting the permissions, for the construction to proceed. I think that relaxation of land use, some zoning adjustments, could help. Dormitories exist, in more areas.
For further analysis, I'm joined by Jonathan Chia, President of the Dormitory Association of Singapore Limited, and Leonard Tay, Head of Research at Knight Frank Singapore. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Chia, let's start with you. Very interesting findings from this report. But why did the Dormitory Association of Singapore commission this study in the first place? What's the impetus?
I think the dormitory industry is something that not many people get to understand. And I think that what the association wanted to do was to bring about some kind of transparency, collecting data, right, and sharing this, to the different stakeholders, right. I think with the information presented, the different stakeholders, policymakers, business owners, and even dorm operators will better be able to appreciate, this industry as a whole.
Why do these findings matter, though? How do they help us understand the living standards of our foreign workers in dormitories?
I think that with the new dorm standards and the dormitory transition scheme, this understanding, is being passed down to all dorm operators in Singapore. The recent FIDA changes, now includes dormitory starting from 7 beds, right? And this brings about the total number of dormitories under FIDA Act to something above 1,500. The Dormitory Association work closely with the policymakers, to ensure that this information is shared, and we also help our members, to bring this realization of the improvements, right?
Okay, and Mr. Tay, as we shared earlier, bed rents are expected to continue rising this year on the back of increasing demand. Did that come to you as a surprise?
That did not, because given some of the recent press that the dormitory market has been getting in the last few years since the pandemic, I had the impression that everything was, really hunky-dory in the dormitory sector, and it was always all good all the time. But going into the data itself, that isn't really always the case. There was a time during the pandemic, those were really dark days for dormitories, and occupancy levels could go down as low, in 60% over, 70% over. It's nowhere near the kind of full occupancies that we see today. And even before the pandemic, given industry cycles, business cycles, there were also peaks and troughs. So it's not, I guess I bought into the wrong urban legend that, it was always going to be good, but it's not true. It's the same like any other property sector with its own highs and lows.
What would you say are other significant findings from the study?
That at least now we have a history, and I guess the aim of the report is to educate anyone who's interested in the sector, not only just stakeholders, and to shed some light on the sector. And that's what we hope to do with this report, that, despite some of the headlines that people might be reading in the newspapers, dormitories, like any other property sector, also goes through different phases, different periods of difficulties, challenges, as well as periods where there are, where there's good kind of return, because it's all just demand and supply.
Right. Speaking of demand and supply, how do you think supply can keep up with the demand for worker dormitories, given that the demand is increasing, as we mentioned?
Yeah, but at least now we are sort of reaching a kind of balance point where, although demand continues to increase, it wasn't the kind of surge that we saw on the back of recovery from the pandemic. So it will be more moderate in nature, and that's good for balance. One way is, if anyone were to read our report, there are different types of dormitories. So other types of dormitories have some flexibility built into that. So factories can be converted, parts of it can be converted in dormitories, or construction sites, parts of it also can be used as temporary lodging. But if we go for purpose-built dormitories, I think the government that monitors all property sectors, demand and supply. So if there really is a need, the government can and could release land for dormitory development. And to be fair, I think construction of a dormitory can be faster because it's less complex than, say, a condominium or office skyscraper.
Mr. Chia, if we look at the numbers again, in 2025, bed rents could increase by 5% to 8%, after having gone up by 10.8% in 2024. How will this put pressure on operating costs for businesses and yet keep the companies competitive?
I think that this increase in costs is not just for the accommodation sector. I think that most businesses, even dorm operators, have seen costs increase, across many other stuff. Things like construction have gone up in cost, right? Operations, manpower, all these have naturally gone up in cost. I think that for dorm operators, we have the need to go through these new dorm standards, this dorm transition, and we will be the first to be spending more money, to improve this living space for our migrant workers. I think that the association wants to be able to inform our members that in this near future, what we are looking at is quality over quantity, right? And because of that, most purpose-built dorms will also see a reduction in their bed space as we meet the new standards. For businesses, that utilizes our services, right? They could work with the dorm operators, to plan ahead, these manpower requirements or these accommodation requirements, right? So that we can optimize, some of these cost structures. Signing with us longer lease, right, will be able to help lock in the prices, right? And of course, there were other enhancements, to their own business operations, increasing productivity, distance to travel, right? These are the things that, that will help the business manage their costs.
And this report also seeks to provide greater transparency and understanding of this unique real estate type. Mr. Tay, do you see more investors coming in to increase supply? And what would be some of the challenges for them?
Well, I guess increase in supply, most of it has to come from the government in terms of releasing land, specifically for dormitory or at least mixed-use industrial type property where there is a dormitory component. But that said, this report is not really crafted specifically just for investors. It's for everyone. It's for operators. It's for the people whose workers live in dormitory. Employers whose workers live in dormitories, as well as for the general public. I guess we hope to shed a little bit of light in a sector which has been a little bit opaque, for the last few years. It's not so transparent as, say, the residential market, for example.
Appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for coming in to speak with us. That was Jonathan Chia from the Dormitory Association of Singapore Limited and Leonard Tay from Knight Frank Singapore. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.